So it looks like Sneako responded to my video that I posted last week, and I think it's safe to say that Sneako isn't necessarily my biggest fan.
Yeah, bro, but look at the fucking snake you did. This is what I'm so sick about, these fucking bot tubers. I don't even, chat, for the Christians who are saying that he's cooking, do you even know which version of the Bible he's talking about? All Christians have their own version of the Bible. They're all different. There's not one consistent Bible.
And you guys just trust me on this, because the longer that the video goes on, the better it gets. It really does. So this video is going to be a little bit longer since we're going to go through Sneako's entire response together, and I'll give my thoughts along the way. So with that out of the way, let's just get into it.
Oh, here we go. We can watch this. Sneako's arguments against Christianity. Popular influencer Sneako, but they can't say Rumbler. Just say Rumbler. Just say Rumbler. No. Okay, fine.
Has been consistently giving everyone 5 reasons for why he recently embraced Islam and why he rejects Christianity. Now, there's a lot of people saying that he only converted to Islam because Andrew Tate did, but I personally don't know the man's motives and won't jump to any conclusions. However, if he is being sincere in the reasons that he gives, then we should expect for Sneako to leave Islam and embrace Christianity by the time that he's done watching this video. The reason why is because the 5 reasons that he gives, if he wants to be consistent, are the very things that should actually cause
We got 4K, or is it going to be laggy?
Cause him to reject Islam and instead become a Christian. So, don't believe me? I'll prove it. Let's start with his first reason.
Okay. Why I resonate with Islam, why it makes sense for me, because it's weird. It doesn't make sense to me to pray to a man. I don't want to submit to a man. The only person that we should submit to and that we should pray to should be the one creator of the universe, which is Allah. He created the universe and we love him for it. Perfect. That really, it makes the most sense to me.
So as you just heard, Sneako doesn't like the idea of submitting to a man and therefore decided to reject Christianity and to embrace Islam. But unfortunately,
there are a lot of reasons. That wasn't the reason that I reverted to Islam, but that's the reason why Christianity never resonated with me, really.
If Sneako really does have a problem with submitting to a man, then he should reject Islam. The reason why is because, according to the Quran, Sneako is actually commanded to submit to Muhammad, who's a man. So if this is a real reason for why Sneako...
But you don't pray to Muhammad, peace be upon him.
So in the original clip, he said that he didn't want to submit or pray to a man, and so I addressed his point about submitting to a man. After I pointed out that the Quran requires you to submit to a man, then he said that the real issue is prayer, which is fine because I had that in mind when I addressed the point about worship, so I think that the same responses could be given in that as well. He should also reject Islam. But what's even more interesting is the reason that he gives for why he thinks that he should only worship Allah. He said that he only wants to worship Allah because Allah is God, Allah is the creator of the universe, and therefore we should love him for it. But ironically, in Christianity, Jesus is God. He created the entire universe. So why does Sneako have a problem with worshiping Jesus in Christianity? Well, the reason why is
because you say that a man is God. That's Christianity.
So when Sneako says that I believe that a man is God, some people can hear that as if we're saying that a man became God. But of course, it's more accurate to think about it the other way around. We believe that God, who created the entire world, put on human flesh and entered into our world. If Jesus wasn't God and wasn't the creator of the universe, then we wouldn't worship or pray to Jesus either. So it's not as if we're saying that we're praying to a mere man, which I think both us Christians and Muslims would agree that you shouldn't pray to a mere man, but instead we're praying to God who put on human flesh. So there's a distinction there.
Everybody in the chat, yeah, bro, like, you don't pray to Muhammad. That's the whole point. That's the whole, peace be upon him. Like, you don't, of course we love him, but it's just that simple.
Because Sneako seems to have a problem with Jesus being both God and man.
Yes.
Fair enough. So for argument's sake, let's go ahead and say that Jesus isn't God and that he's only a man. So
what? Yo, Christians, you jacking that? That made no sense. Oh, no. That's the whole reason why Christianity didn't resonate with me. And then you're going to say, for argument's sake, that goes against the religion. Wait a second. Run that back. What?
Because Sneako seems to have a problem with Jesus being both God and man. Fair enough. So for argument's sake, let's go ahead and say that Jesus isn't God and that he's only a man. So
that's Islam. What? Why would you even present a hypothetical that debunks the whole religion?
All right, so I think here he might not have understood what a hypothetical is in this case, because in order for a hypothetical to debunk a religion, it would have to be taken as literal, which of course it's not because it's a hypothetical. And here I think that Sneako may have jumped the gun a little bit, because I explained the reason for the hypothetical here in a second. Man, in both Islam and Christianity, then who does Sneako think is the more rational person to submit to? On the one hand, we have Muhammad, who wasn't born of a virgin.
The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as a human being like the rest of us, do have sin.
Needed forgiveness for his sins.
The promise of God is that he does forgive sins, and his promise in the Quran is that he has forgiven the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, for his sins past and future.
And according to Sneako,
I understand what the hypotheticals, and I understand for example, but that's a stupid example to make, because then that's not Christianity anymore.
So it seems like Sneako's chat gets it, but Sneako still thinks that it debunks Christianity in some way. But that's all right. Let's keep going. Wasn't perfect and did some questionable things.
Are you against grooming?
Yeah, it's gross.
How do you feel about like the fact that Muhammad married a 9-year-old girl?
I don't know how true that is.
But I don't think any Muslims deny it.
If that's true, then he's not. Then nobody's perfect.
So, if Sneako doesn't have a problem with submitting to a man like Muhammad, who, even according to him, wasn't morally perfect, then why would he have a...
That was before I reverted to Islam. She's asking me questions that I didn't know the answer to. I was saying that I was thinking about Islam. This is before. And I understand now that a lot of the time the parents have better decision-making abilities than the woman, and it was a different time. And Muhammad, peace be upon him, was definitely not a pedophile. He had many wives. A lot of them were older than him. I think his first wife was 50 when he was 25. And he was friends with Aisha, peace be upon her. He was friends with her parents. So I don't think that that's an example of pedophilia, no.
All right, now real quick, if you remember what my point was that Sneako said that Muhammad wasn't perfect. So this wasn't an attempt for me to argue against Islam here. I was only taking Sneako's reasons for why he embraced Islam and rejected Christianity, and I was engaging with those reasons. So this isn't me trying to argue against Islam here or to even say that it's bad. I'm just going off of Sneako's standards to show why it's a problem for him on his view. Now, of course, I see Sneako's explanations that he gave as problematic, but that's not even the point, because even if he were right, I don't think that Sneako would say that Muhammad was perfect, since Muslims don't even believe that. So again, I think that my point still remains. All right, let's keep going. Problem submitting to someone like Jesus, who, even according to Islam, was born of a virgin, performed miracles, and wasn't a sinner. If submitting to a man really is a problem for Sneako, then he should reject Islam, since it requires Muslims to submit to Muhammad. And if he decides to have a change of mind and conclude that he's actually okay with submitting to a man, then once we compare Jesus and Muhammad, even according to Sneako's own standards, then it makes a lot more sense for him to be a Christian and not a Muslim. Now, let's move over to another reason that Sneako gives for converting to Islam. So when it comes to this first point, I think that my point still remains. All right, let's go to the next one.
I like the fact that you pray 5 times a day in Islam. You're going to be more grounded. They take prayer more seriously than any other religion.
All right, now this is actually a really strange one, because not too long after he recorded this video, he asked for guidance in this area, and he said this.
I don't have the time to pray 5 times a day. Are you supposed to take all the steps fully? Are you supposed to fully dive into it, or can you, like, what's the next move?
So now, it's pretty strange that he cites praying 5 times a day as something that he likes about Islam, which is ironically the same thing that he thinks that he can't do. Now, I'm not sure if he realizes that these prayers aren't prayers that spontaneously come from the heart. Instead, these prayers are just memorized sayings in Arabic, which is, of course, a language that...
Wait, so liking structure means that it doesn't come... What?
Sneako doesn't understand. But Sneako just likes a structure that comes with ritualized... All right, now you'll notice that this is a little bit of a theme here, because over and over what you're going to see is it's almost like I'm having a conversation with Sneako in that video, because I'll say something, he'll start responding to it, and then I'll immediately, in like the next sentence or two, I'll respond to what he was saying. This isn't his fault, by the way, because this is his first time he's watching it, but it was still kind of funny.
Liking structure means that it doesn't come... What?
Sneako doesn't understand. But if Sneako just likes a structure that comes with ritualized or memorized prayer, then he could have just stayed in his Catholic church, since they have recited...
Yeah, this is a very Aben preach tactic, like when you get to selectively edit clips like that. And that doesn't mean that, because I'm still trying to find the time. I don't even know how to pray correctly. Like, I'm still learning how to recite the words properly.
We'll actually come back to this point about the editing because he brings it up a few times. I mean, unless he just likes the fact that they pray 5 times a day. Well, if that's the case, then there's no reason that he couldn't set a clock, get down on his knees, and pray 5 times a day as a Christian. So if this really was a reason for why he converted to Islam, then he shouldn't be a Muslim, since in Islam, he's obligated to pray 5 times a day. And he even said himself that he can't meet all his obligations since he doesn't have the time for it. So instead of embracing Islam, he really should just embrace Christianity. The next reason that Sneako consistently
That was okay, but there's no. Is he making any arguments that are worthwhile? Like, should I keep watching or not?
gives for why he, so that's all I said about that point. And again, as you'll notice, that was not an argument to say that Islam is wrong or there's something wrong about praying 5 times a day, because the Bible even tells us to pray without ceasing. What I was doing was going off of his standards for why he likes Islam. He doesn't argue that Islam is true because of his things. He argues that he likes Islam because of those things. And because of that, I found it strange that he would want to embrace Islam, since praying 5 times a day in Islam isn't a preference. It's not about liking doing it, it's an obligation. So I was using that not as an argument against Islam, but as an argument for the things that he likes seems to also go against Islam. In favor of Islam is his problem with hierarchies.
Like, why I never felt like Christianity spoke to me. For example, like, there's a hierarchy. In Christianity, they have, well, in Catholicism, they have bishops, they have priests, they have the Pope. There's like a power structure, like politics in the religion, which makes no sense. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in Islam, there is none. It's just we're all equal. We're all God's children.
So here Sneako says that he has a problem with hierarchies in Catholicism and therefore converted to Islam, since there are no hierarchies in Islam and we're all children of God. All right, lots of issues with this one. First off, to say that he likes the idea that we're all God's children in Islam rather than Christianity is exactly backwards. The idea that God is our father and we're his children comes straight from Christianity. In fact, it's actually offensive to say such a thing.
Maybe not the word children, but the word creation.
All right, so he said maybe not the word children, but maybe the word creation. And of course, we're all God's children in Christianity as well. So if he wants to change the word to creation, that's fine, but it still doesn't refute the main point of what I was talking about, because of course there's still hierarchies in God's creation according to Islam as well. The best relationship that we can have with Allah is a slave-master relationship. Secondly, when it comes to talking about hierarchies, it really depends on what he means when he says that. Now, I'm not a Catholic, so I won't speak to that, but the answer...
But there you go. You should speak to that, because there are direct hierarchies in Catholicism. The Pope is like the political leader of a religion.
I wasn't even planning on having Sneako add to the list of reasons for why he should reject Islam, but again, there it is. We're going off of the reasons that he gives, the reasons for why he says that he doesn't like Catholicism. Not only do they have hierarchies in Islam, which any Muslim would tell you, but also when he talks about the Pope being like a political leader, Sneako must not be aware of the Caliph, which is literally a political leader. So again, according to him and according to his standards, this is one of the reasons for why he rejects Christianity. So if he's consistent, this should also be a reason for why he should reject Islam.
What about the bishops? What about the priests? See, this is another problem with Christianity, is they can never decide what the is Christianity. Who belongs and who doesn't? None of them even agree.
All right, now, once again, he's giving yet more reasons for why he should reject Islam the further that we go on. Now, I've heard him make this point in other videos, and Sneako seems to be under the impression that Muslims typically agree on who is a Muslim and who isn't. So when he talks about how it's a problem for Christianity since they can't even agree on who belongs and who doesn't, if that's a problem for Christianity, then it's also a problem for him on Islam. One of the most obvious examples of this is that in predominantly Sunni areas, the dominant view is that Shias aren't real Muslims. Now, of course, you're going to find some Sunnis that say that, yes, they are true Muslims, and others that say they aren't. But that's the point. They all don't agree. And it's the same when it comes to Protestants and Catholics. So again, if not knowing who belongs is a problem for Christianity, then it's also a problem for Islam as well. What Muslim friends gave him in response is virtually identical to the Christian position.
Although there will be levels, like for example, the imam or the sheikh will have a certain level, not over people in sight of God, but we listen to them because they have knowledge. People like the leader of the Islamic community, we listen to them because they're the leader. They were kind of put in place by God to make sure the community is safe, and they have a responsibility. Just like a husband has responsibility for his wife and kids, there's a level of authority there. But it's not that, oh, he's better than us or God loves him more. You can have like a poor person who worships God, who's very loved by God because of their, devotion.
Okay.
Now, the only major difference here is that in Christianity, God loves you whether you're faithful to him or not, and if you're a believer or a non-believing sinner, which just isn't the case in Islam. So this means that if hierarchies are a problem for Sneako, then he should also reject Islam. And even more, since he likes the fact that we're all God's children, then he should not only reject Islam, but also embrace Christianity, since that's a Christian concept, not an Islamic one. But the next reason that he gives creates an even bigger problem for his conversion.
What I like about Islam and why it's haram to draw Muhammad, and that's why I didn't really resonate with Christianity a lot growing up, because it's like they're all the images that they put of God. It doesn't make sense to me. We are not capable of visualizing what the creator of the universe looks like, what he's doing. Why is he in a cloud chilling with a beard? Why is he white? Why is God a dude? It doesn't make any sense. So there's no point in us even conceptualizing it, because we can.
Shout out to all the autistic schizos in the Rumble chat, where every single time a YouTuber has to go and steal the content and not ever cite. Look at that. He fucking credited Jadion in the description, but didn't put my own link to my channel, which they all do. Oh, put your PayPal, but then don't put the link to my Rumble channel, right? But all you autistic schizos who just say top H the whole time and get the chat blurred, how many times have we seen this?
Never have the capability.
All right, so first off, I didn't blur the chat. I actually got this clip off of Muslim channels that other Muslims posted on YouTube. Secondly, I actually credit him and Jadion in the same thing. The only reason I tagged Jadion is because he has a YouTube channel, so therefore YouTube allows for me to tag his name. If Sneako didn't get kicked off of YouTube, I would have loved to tag Sneako as well, because tagging people gets their attention sometimes, and of course I wanted Sneako to see this video. So as the video goes on, Sneako complains more and more about this, and I didn't care because it's irrelevant to my point. So I added a link to his Rumble channel in my previous video, since I genuinely don't have a problem with it. But with that being said, I don't recall Sneako linking me in his video description either. So if it was that bad and that messed up, he should have linked me as well. But of course, I honestly couldn't care less, because that's not even the point.
And no disrespect to the Catholics watching.
Oh, real quick on that point. The reason why I added that clip where he says, no disrespect to the Catholics that are watching, the reason I added that is because later on in the conversation, he said, I know people are going to clip this, but if you clip it, just go ahead and add the part where I said, no disrespect to the Catholics. So I added that point just to honor what he was saying.
I like the fact that Islam, doesn't draw Muhammad, peace be upon him. You're not supposed to ever visualize that, because he was not alive in our time. There's no way that we would know what he looked like, especially Allah, God. He's never drawn. We have no idea what he looks like, or because there's no way. Humans are too stupid. We would never. We're not mentally capable of understanding what God would look like.
We can't conceptualize.
We can't conceptualize. So it's not supposed to. In Christianity, I'll grow up and you have like God on a cloud. And it's like this guy with a white dude on a beard, and he's like laying in a cloud, and he's like putting his hand down. Like, why?
So, as you just heard, he thinks that it's wrong.
Ready for his argument? He's going to say that Catholics are different from whatever branch of Christianity he's a part of.
Nope, incorrect. But just off of going off of his other comments, if that were the point that I was making, he would of course argue that it wasn't a good response because there's disagreements between Catholics and Protestants. Of course, he would be saying all of this while not realizing that he'll disagree with Shias on all kinds of things that he's not even aware of yet, even on this very issue that we're talking about. He's going to disagree with someone, whether it be Sunnis or Salafis or Shias or another school of thought and so on. So again, if that were a problem for Christianity, then it would also be a problem for him on Islam as well. But if conceptualizing or visualizing God is a problem for Sneako, and not just backwards reasoning to come up with justification for why he's accepting Islam, then once again, Sneako has some serious problems. The first reason why is because, according to some Islamic teachers,
Allah described in the Quran that he has a face. Allah described in the Quran that he has two hands.
And both of Allah's hands are right hands.
We believe that both of the hands of Allah are what? Huh?
The hadith says very clearly that both his hands are right.
The saq here refers to Allah's shin. So he has a leg.
The Quran says that Allah has one eye
Read Surah Qalam, Surah number 68, ayat number 42. The shin of Allah is mentioned.
In fact, Sheikh Uthman, the one who brought Sneako to his first mosque, he believes that Allah has
That's not true. Sartorial Shooter did.
parts as well, although Shooter gets pretty fuzzy when he's pressed on exactly what those body parts look like. But here's the thing, even as I played those clips, if Sneako were listening to those Muslim leaders describing Allah, then it would actually be impossible for Sneako not to conceptualize Allah. So in other words, he would be doing the very thing that he gave as a reason for why he rejects Christianity. So now, unfortunately,
he took those clips out of context. Yeah, I mean, it's Abba and Preach editing, so his argument makes sense.
Now, when he says that I took these clips out of context, this again shows that he does not understand Islam. This is Salafi Doctrine 101, and he can go watch any of those clips in their context, and he'll learn that that's 100% their point. And that's why I later made the point that whether he agrees or he disagrees with them, then it's still a problem for his objection.
But also, that doesn't refute the fact that I said that there's no depictions. Description is different than depiction.
All right, so he says that depictions are different than descriptions, but they aren't, given how he argued. You have to remember that there's a reason for why I chose to use the words visualize and conceptualize, and the reason why is because those are the words that he used as he described what the problem was. He's the one that said that the problem is visualizing or conceptualizing Allah, since we can't conceptualize or visualize Allah or Muhammad. But as I try to demonstrate with those clips, if conceptualizing is a problem, then that's a conceptualization. And if visualizing were the problem, then it's not a problem, since it's not a tenet of Christianity anyway. And by the way, by him saying this, then he would have to believe that Shias aren't true Muslims. The reason why is because a lot of Shias don't have a problem with you drawing Muhammad unless it's done in a disrespectful way. But I would say if he has a problem with it, he's free to go to a Sunni church who agrees with them, in the same way that he can go to a Christian church that doesn't have pictures of Jesus. All right, let's keep going. He goes in a bit of a dilemma. He can either accept or reject these teachers' interpretation of those passages in the Quran and the Hadiths. If he rejects their interpretation, then he would have to interpret those passages as non-literal representations of God, which is the very thing that everyone knows is true about the paintings that he's referencing. No one thinks that those are actually real depictions of what God is supposed to look like. But regardless, if Sneako doesn't like pictures of God, then he can still reject those, since those aren't a feature of Christianity. It's not as if these pictures are found in the Bible or they're part of any Christian teaching.
But they put it in churches. You see depictions of God, like on the giant glass ceilings and everything, you see depictions.
Again, if he wants to use that as a reason for why he rejects the Catholic Church, that's fine, but he can't reject Christianity because of it. Obviously, the Bible doesn't say that God is an old white man, but on the other hand, if he does accept those—
and even culturally, it's forbidden to draw Muhammad, peace be upon him, or even it's completely against even drawing Jesus. You can't do that.
Muslims' interpretations of Allah, then he should reject Islam, since he's against conceptualizing or visualizing God. And not only that, but he should also accept Christianity, because even as Mufti Abdullah says, the Quranic depiction of Allah is far worse than God being pictured as a white man.
Yeah, honestly, that is not that. They've got some picture of some kind of a gremlin.
And last but definitely not least is perhaps the most absurd of them all. Now, here's where his reaction starts to pick up, and in my opinion, things get better and better, and he clearly gets more and more upset as the video goes on. But before we get to that point, real quick, we have to take a second just to mention the sponsor of today's video. Now, I don't know how many of you guys know this, but a few years ago, I had a subscriber show up at my house fully convinced that he knew who the Antichrist was, and he tried to get me to deliver that message to my subscriber base. When that happened, I learned the hard way that anyone can find anything on the internet, including your full name, your personal email, your home address, your phone number, and even your relatives. The reason why they can get your information is because of data brokers who profit by selling your information to robocallers, telemarketers, scammers, and anyone else that wants your info. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Aura. Aura will identify those data brokers, exposing all of your information to telemarketers, and they'll actually automatically submit opt-out requests on your behalf. They'll even opt you out of junk mail and telemarketing lists. And in addition, Aura monitors your emails and passwords to see if they've been involved in a data breach and exposed on the dark web. And if that wasn't enough, their app also features a VPN, password manager, real-time identity theft monitoring, internet parental controls, and protects your devices from malware. So in other words, Aura has almost every internet safety tool that you'll ever need, all inside of one app. And the best part is, if you sign up now, Aura will give you a 2-week free trial by going to aura.com/whatdoyoumeme or scanning the QR code on the screen. So go there now and you'll see just how much of your private information they can find exposed. All right, now back to the video. All right, now we're at the final point, the point that triggers him the most. So let's take a look at what makes him so upset. You ready? Let's go. The fifth reason that he gives for rejecting Christianity and embracing Islam is the fact that the Bible's been changed and the Quran hasn't. But you're probably wondering to yourself right now, why would that be the most absurd of all of his claims, since that's a claim that Muslims often make? Well, it's not the ignorance of the claim that makes it the most interesting, but instead it's the way that he argues for it. So the context here in this clip that I'm about to play is that Sneako is having a debate with Gideon on Islam and Christianity, and Sneako is coming across as if he literally doesn't know any of the basics of the Bible.
What's the chapter and verse of that?
Matt, verse 39.
What's the chapter?
I don't know. There's been so many different. There's so many different versions of the Bible, bro.
What other versions of the Bible are there? Sneako?
There's so many, bro.
Okay, tell me some.
Okay, let's look up versions of the Bible. We have the King James Version, the English Standard Version, the New American Standard, the New English Bible.
You know the funny thing about all those different versions, Sneako?
What?
They're all just different translations, buddy.
But it gets worse.
Most people haven't read the original version. Have you heard of the Council of Nicaea? There's been a lot of chapters that have been removed, and the Bible's been tampered and manipulated with a lot over the years. Well, they did remove the Council of Nicaea from the original Bible. A lot of people haven't read those parts of the Bible.
Council of Nicaea? What are you saying? There's a book called the Council of Nicaea?
Yeah.
There's not no book called the Council of Nicaea.
No. It's not a book, but there was a council that removed parts of the Bible. Not a whole book, but it's... Yeah, there you go.
So, as you just heard, Sneako rejects the credibility.
Bro, what type of Abba and Preach Christian channel is this, man? Do you see the selective editing here? I went and explained exactly what the Council of Nicaea was in that debate, and he completely clips it out because there's silence, and then to his viewers, he's like, whoa, he was quiet for 3 seconds. Debunked? Silence doesn't mean debunked. That means that we're figuring things out and having a convo. What the f***?
Of the Bible in favor of Islam.
What the f*** is this editing?
All right, so here he's making a couple claims. First, he said how I clipped out the part where he goes on to explain what the Council of Nicaea was, but this is him yet again jumping the gun because I do play his clip just a little bit after this. And by the way, on a side note, I have no reason to try to be sneaky because I don't gain anything for getting things wrong. If I get something wrong in something like this, if Muslims don't agree with me, then I can't reach the Muslims. And even if I were only talking to Christians, I wouldn't want to discredit my credibility anyway. So I gain nothing by just making stuff up or lying or getting stuff wrong. So like with all of my videos, if I get something wrong, then it was unintentional. And I always try to go to the sources. Now, you can believe that or not. I really don't care, but that's the truth. All right, let's keep going. Because they removed the book of the Council of Nicaea from the Bible. Now, for anyone who knows literally anything about church history, they know that the Council of Nicaea is not a book, but instead it's a council. Now, ordinarily, it wouldn't be a big deal that he's ignorant on Christianity and Islam since he's a new convert, but that's not the point. The point is, this is a problem since the reasons that he converted are based on the ignorance of Islam and Christianity. So after taking a second to Google the Council of Nicaea, Sneako says this.
There's no book of... What?
There was a council called the Council of Nicaea that manipulated the original Bible.
All right, pause right there for a second, because what's so insane about this is that even on his screen, on the front page of his Google search, it says there is no historical basis for the idea that Nicaea established the canon and created the Bible. It's literally right there.
I didn't say that the Council of Nicaea created. I never said that. I said they changed it.
On his screen, and it's highlighted. And this means that not only is he not reading the screen, but it also means that he didn't even take the time to do a 2-second Google search on the Council of Nicaea before deciding that this was his reason for rejecting Christianity and embracing Islam. So now when it comes to his...
Bro, this dude is fucking disingenuous as When did I ever say that the Council of Nicaea created the Bible?
All right, so here he's focused on the part where it says that they created it, but that's not the relevant part. So maybe I could have done a better job here articulating what exactly I was referring to. The part that I was focusing on was the establishment of the canon. And for those that don't know, the canon refers to the authoritative books of the Bible. So when he argues that most people haven't read the original version of the Bible since they removed, changed, or edited books of the Bible during the Council of Nicaea, and he argues that the Bible that we have today is the edited version that we got from them, then that means that they established the Bible or the canon of scripture at the Council of Nicaea. I mean, if they changed stuff or they removed stuff from the Bible at the Council of Nicaea and the one we have today is the one we got from the Council of Nicaea, then that would mean that they established the Bible. Now, again, this might not be his fault because, again, I could have done a better job explaining exactly what I was referring to. But regardless, and per usual, I addressed his claim of the Bible being changed right after he complains about it once again. Honestly, I feel bad for him. He's likely just repeating Muslim slogans about this, not realizing that this actually comes from a Dan Brown novel and not actual history. If anyone decides to go look up the actual history, then like Sneako, it would only take you really 2 seconds to learn that the Council of Nicaea literally had nothing to do with determining what books went into the Bible and what books didn't. In fact, the council wasn't even about the books of the Bible. Instead, it was about the Arian heresy. That point alone nullifies all of his other points anyway, so really doesn't matter. So honestly, I think that Sneako was misled here by some Muslim apologists who either knew or should have known better. But again, let's be charitable because I'm a charitable guy and I'm feeling really charitable today. So let's say that Sneako is right that they actually did remove books from the Bible at the Council of Nicaea. Well, the problem with that claim is that we literally have tens of thousands of quotes from church fathers citing the scriptures long before, and we have dozens of manuscripts from before the Council of Nicaea.
So which version of the Bible is he talking about? There's one Quran. There's one Quran that's lasted 1,400 years. He said that he doesn't even agree with Catholics. They haven't, bro, all Christians have their own version of the Bible. They're all different. There's not one consistent Bible. Of course, there's English translations of the Quran, but even then, people who read the English version or read translations know that it's not as accurate as the Arabic Quran is, the original one. There's one, and everything in Islam is cited exactly to that. I don't even, chat, for the Christians who are saying that he's cooking, do you even know which version of the Bible he's talking about? Because all of them are different.
All right, so obviously that's not true. You don't believe me? Go ahead and go to your church and then go compare your Bible with the person sitting next to you. All of them have the same Bible. They're not different Bibles. What is different are the different translations. And once again, if that's a problem in Christianity, that would also be a problem in Islam. But to say that all Christians have a different Bible, that's a claim that just doesn't make any sense.
Because all of them are different. The Christians cannot decide which one is actual Christian canon.
All right, again, I have no idea what he's talking about here. The best that I can think of is that he might be referring to the Catholic and the Protestant Bibles being different. If that's what he's saying, then yeah, his claim makes a little bit more sense since the Catholic Bible includes more books than the Protestant Bible. If that's the case, it's two. And it's not as if the books are different or the words are different or anything like that. They have the same books in the Bible, but the Catholics have a few additional books. A potential parallel here might be referring to the Muslim sources. They do have the same Quran, but they differ on sources. Sunnis and Shias disagree on which hadiths are reliable and which ones aren't, which again is fine. I don't see that as a problem for Muslims. I'm only going off of his claims here. So if I took his claim seriously, then it would kind of be like me saying, so which sources are you even talking about? Sunnis and Shias have different sources. Sneako doesn't even agree with the Shias. Again, that wouldn't be a good argument against Islam, but it is a good argument against the reasons that Sneako gives. It was even a thought. So if someone really did change the Bible at the Council of Nicaea, then it would be pretty easy for textual critics to know what they changed and to fix it. We wouldn't be relying on the Council of Nicaea to know what was in the Bible anyway. And of course, when it comes to the Old Testament, then Sneako has also been deceived in believing that the Old Testament was changed as well, when in reality, history once again shows us that it wasn't. For a long time.
Always source. Thanks for the 35. This is taken out of context. Appreciate you.
All right, real quick. This is actually kind of funny here because he stops seemingly thinking that the chat was actually helping him out here. But once he realized that they weren't helping him out, he gets annoyed and then he moves on.
Always source. Thanks for the 35. This is taken out of context. Appreciate you. She was saying why she left her ex and why a man like Sneako drives you crazy because they don't simp and check her. She never talked. Okay, I don't know what the you guys are talking about.
The earliest that's my interpretation of what happened. I could be wrong, but that's how it looked to me. Manuscripts of the Old Testament that we had were from the 10th century AD. But once we found the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947, we found Old Testament manuscripts that were more than 1,000 years older than the ones that we previously had. So of course, this gave us the opportunity to see if the Old Testament manuscripts that we had been changed or not. But once we compared them with one another, they proved to be virtually exact. So not only do we know that the New Testament wasn't changed, but we also know that the Old Testament wasn't changed either. And by the way, Sneako, if you're watching this, I'd love to have a conversation with you in private or in public about this. So reach out to me if you're interested.
Yeah, bro, but look at the fucking snake that you did. Using so many clips, but the fact that, and this is what I'm so sick about these bot tubers, is right now, I'm not even lying, I'm dominating on YouTube. I'm pulling in so many views on YouTube, and if I was still on there, the amount of money that I'm missing out of because I was banned 7 months ago is insane. And all these people that make videos about me do not credit my channel. But the fact that he went out there to credit Gideon because he's on his side of the argument, and he didn't even use a clip from his stream, he just cited him because he agrees with him.
All right, again, that's just ridiculous. The reason why I tagged Gideon is because he has a YouTube channel. So I could use a tag in replacement of his name. If Sneako had a YouTube channel, then I would have tagged Sneako in the video because I could have used Sneako's tag rather than his name. So this has nothing to do with Gideon being on my side or whatever, because I don't even know what Gideon really actually even fully believes. Again, the clips that I got were from Muslim YouTubers, which by the way, I went ahead and added those clips in the description to the last video, so that way you can see how I did not take Sneako out of context. Oh, and one more thing about that point. There's a reason why I said in public or in private, I would like to have a conversation with them. And the reason why is because I don't have any interest in trying to dunk on Sneako for the sake of clout or whatever else like that. I do want to expose his reasons for you guys, but when it comes to Sneako, I honestly just want him to come to a knowledge of the truth. It obviously wouldn't be a fair debate if I was going to debate Sneako, since I've been doing this for a lot longer, so I'm not interested in trying to debate him to make him look dumb or anything like that. I genuinely just want to educate him and help him to come to know the truth, so that way he can make a more informed decision.
That's some bro, that is so disingenuous, and you really had the, like, you're gonna put your PayPal and your Patreon. Where's my Rumble link? Did you even crop out my watermark from the stream? That is so...
No, of course I did not crop out his watermark, as he'll come to realize here in a moment.
I'm not even gonna copyright claim it, but put the popular influence. These people don't even know. Do you know that, you know how many people come up to me, chat, and they're like, yo, I see your YouTube videos all the time. I was sparring yesterday, and some dude, like, in between rounds is like, yo, watch your YouTube videos. I'm like, take out my mouth. I don't have YouTube. Because these people don't credit me. They'll use my name, they'll use my likeness, they'll do all these, and they don't even say what website I'm on. Fucking annoying.
Sneako then goes on to argue that the reason why he converted to Islam is because there's only one Arabic Quran that hasn't been changed at all.
You know what book has never been manipulated? And you know what book has no 30 different versions of it? Look what he did. Did he? Oh, no. You can see the watermark.
See? I didn't crop out his watermark. Now, I know that he doesn't know me, but something like this would never even cross my mind. Why would I be so petty as to cross out his watermark for fear that other people can find him on Rumble, when all they have to do is a Google search or any kind of search to find out that he's on Rumble? Some people have been saying that this is all just a big red herring and an excuse for not dealing with my actual video or the content of my video, but honestly don't think that's the case. I think that for whatever reason, he really is triggered over this, although it's something that I personally don't relate to at all.
That's why I had to put this shit right here. Stay consistent for 1400 years. I'm just giving you a reason why I believe in the Quran more, because I can be certain that this hasn't been tampered with the way the Bible has. But the original text of the Quran has never been tampered with, has never been manipulated. And this is the one that you could always go to. It's the same, it's consistent for 1400 years.
And I was planning on responding to this claim to show how, once again, this should cause him to reject Islam and to embrace Christianity. But then I thought, you know what? I know someone who could answer this claim far better than I could.
You're not even gonna answer? That's the biggest reason. That's my biggest reason. You're not even gonna...
And so I called my friend David Wood and I asked him if he would cover this point. And let me tell you, just when you thought it couldn't get any worse for Sneako, Then comes David's video. Go ahead and click here to see what I mean. And the next time that you give reasons for
You're gonna put a cliffhanger on the big point?
converting to Islam. Yes, a cliffhanger, because I wanted to actually give a full video to the other one. And as I said in the video, I thought David would do a better job than me at responding to this question, and he did. So it's not about my video, Sneako. It's about the information that we want for you to see. All right, so then after this, he goes on to read some of the comments.
What do the comments say? Religion, I need to obey and be loved by God. Christianity, I am loved by God, so that makes me want to obey. Sneako was as Christian as Andrew Tate was, so no surprise that he embraced Islam too. No, I grew up Catholic. I almost got confirmed. As a Christian gamer, I'm distancing myself from Sneako. Whoa, deja vu. Yeah, whatever. But that's the problem of not having bot-tube snake behavior. It's not that bad, but it's selective editing, and it's a very Abba and preach tactic, and it shows that like most of the people on YouTube don't see the selective editing tactics that these people use. Like, yeah, when you go clip things in a way that makes you seem like you're a genius, you're always going to look smart to the comment section.
And lastly, once again, he complains about context and selective editing. Now, just a rule of thumb, when somebody takes somebody else out of context, what they're doing is they're taking something that they say in order to make it appear as if they're saying something entirely different. That, of course, is not at all what I did. You can go ahead and look at the links in the description and go watch them for yourself. All right, so now overall, there's really not much more left to say. I honestly think it'd be far more productive for me and Sneako to both sit down and have a convo in private or in public, like I said earlier. We do have some mutual friends, so we'll see if that happens, and I'll leave it there. But the next time that you hear Sneako saying something like,
I don't even, chat, for the Christians who are saying that he's cooking, do you even know which version of the Bible he's talking about? Because all of them are different.
What are you gonna say? My guy, what do you mean?